So, what's been happening?
Oh, well, it's taken me a while to get out of that last week. I'm still coming back day by day, but I'm
Mm,
feeling better.
yeah,
I feel like I'm moving from a space of total frustration from sick of being in town and not getting any guidance on any actions to take
I
to
know.
inspired and taking and get ideas coming through and feeling the flow of energy. Um, and then getting absolutely just slammed the last few days with my I don't want to keep saying monthly bleed. I just say bleed because I don't know if I want it to be
Was
monthly
it kind of
anymore.
quarterly or something?
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe I just have a quarterly bleed.
quarterly.
My quarterly bleed that's been happening 3 times more than it's meant to is
Way too regular.
way too regular. Because it was such a big month for me, I'm releasing so much, and it's not just been in a physical, like the
Mm,
energetic release has been big, and then I also did a yoni steam right
mm.
before it, and I bought some beautiful herbs, which aren't that expensive, I actually
No,
found,
they're not.
and
Yeah,
beautiful, and I'm gonna do quite a few. I just know to do yoni steams for a while, like a bit more
yeah,
like regularly, and then
yeah, same.
yeah, so it's just been a big release. So
Yeah,
I was feeling a little frustrated because the energy was all ready, ready and raring to go, and then slam. And this is a repeating theme. And so I'm just like, fuck, should we like
talk about this. Whew. I
hmm
think from the very first cycle that I got back after having Zion, so that was when we first did, it was like the second day of that video challenge.
hmm
And then that was super light. And then it was nearly 2 months, I think, until the next one, which I felt like that was a really nice gap. um,
That
Even an extra month would be good, I think. It was super heavy as well. And I
is.
noticed the same. It's like whenever you start to get in that flow of ready to like take action, boom, there it is. And it's like, that's why I was curious as to if I was always a really regular 28 days, bang on, never a day late, for probably the last 5 or 6 years prior to falling pregnant and everything. But yeah, it came up when we were in Sydney that, the whole manipulation around a women's cycle. When was that? That was like 2017 that we're having that discussion. And one of the things that kind of came into our awareness was how we have the ability to control when we get it. But that knowledge, I guess, it's not in the public domain, that's for sure. And I don't really know how you go about it, but I'm so keen to find out.
I feel like this is the beginning, is the awareness, the conversations that get shared around this, the more women that aren't treating the moon and their monthly moonly bleed and calling it moons,
Calling it their moon
their
cycle.
moon cycle, and stop like kind of devoting towards that whole realm is exactly how we pull our power out. We need to actually
Totally.
pull it out of
The
that
collective.
experience, the collective. And then, the wave of women doing that, I believe we will all remember. There has definitely been material that I have come across over the years that I've read where women, it's demonstrated to me that women are starting to remember that they get to choose. And it's so strange how we bleed every single month, and and that just doesn't seem like we need to reproduce and have that
Mm,
many options to reproduce and many opportunities. It just is like, that's kind of it like that little part of us that doesn't feel quite right, when our intuition is like, is that right? It just feels like there's something a little bit wrong about that. It's not until you point it out where women feel into it and go, why the fuck would I need to bleed every single month, every 28,
Mm,
29, 30 days? How do I need that many opportunities to have a child when it is such a massive undertaking
mm,
that takes years of your life? Like, you don't need
yeah.
all these opportunities unless there's some sort of reason why, perhaps some sort of agenda
Mm.
of breeding, and who knows.
Yeah, which there's almost a counter agenda about that, isn't it? Like the whole depopulation thing. It's like, why do they want more? But for me, it feels more like, so just going back to when you were saying about the awareness, then able to like, I just felt like this plug being like pulled out. It's like we're so plugged
Mhm.
into this programming of, I just cringe when I see like, oh, you know, and I was there for so many years. I was like, oh, so excited because I was like, I am, you know, I was so aligned with the moon. Like I would literally start bleeding on at the time of the new moon. Like I remember being in, this was back when I was working in admin, and my friend who I was working with, like we were both like obsessed with it. And it was like 11 o'clock in the morning or something that I went to the toilet, and I was like, holy shit. And totally wasn't expecting it. I just completely missed that it was the new moon coming up. And I went and I logged on to just quickly Google. I'm like, what time is the new moon? And it was literally like within minutes of when it started. I was like, wow, that's really full on. And I was like, so totally on the new moon for about 18 months and then full moon for 18 months. And I just thought that was the best thing ever. And yeah, then it came into my awareness, like what was actually going on. And yeah, I made the decision that weekend. So I went to Sydney, what would have been like May 2017. And I thought that, like, because what we were receiving was exactly what you were saying. It's like every month it's too often. We're not meant to be cycling that often, and that we actually have complete control over whether we conceive or not, and how often we want that cycle to happen. And what came up, and I haven't really delved into the research of it, but there's something around the orcas, around how their cycle happens. Like it's a conscious decision or something for them to create a baby. And when we're looking at it, it's like, you know, when you think about that week before you start bleeding, it's like everything is so full on. Like you've got so much energy, and it's like it's the high. It's like that point where you're like, oh my God, my creative energy is so strong. Boom, 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 bam. Gone, you know, like it's just gone. There's like, okay, time to retreat, and the desire to just want to do anything is just not there anymore. Like we literally at the moment get 1 week of the whole month where you're feeling like that. The rest of it, it's like, okay, so the week, you know, you're bleeding, you're like, it's very internal, introspective, very yin energy. And then kind of that week after that is when it's building again. And then you have that 1 week of like, yeah, everything's awesome. And then bam, we're back at the start again. And yeah, that just doesn't feel right. Once, like you said, once you start actually questioning it, because I don't, you know, like I never did before. I was just always like, wow, this is just really amazing that we can cycle with the moon. I was so connected to the moon until I started becoming aware of the the truth about it. I guess are we going to delve into the moon today? I don't know.
I think we are. I think these conversations go hand in hand.
It's going to the moon. Okay.
Well, we're going to
the control. Yeah. Oh, and I just remember when I first found that out, I was like, oh my God, holy shit. But like so much of this stuff, you can feel it. You can just feel the truth behind it. And you don't even have to, it challenged, like my whole business was set up around the moon cycles. I was doing like courses around it and all sorts of stuff. And then all of a sudden it's like, holy shit, it's a fucking lie. My whole life's a lie. Yeah, challenged like every belief system that I had. And yeah, but you can't deny it. You can't, when you really feel into the energy behind it, you just, yeah, I denied it for a while. I was just like, that chick's crazy, no way. But yeah, catches up
Well,
eventually, doesn't it?
it does. Like there's a lot of people heavily invested in the moon, financially, emotionally, energetically. There's a lot of women invested in women's rituals that
Totally.
align with the moon, and it is a really difficult conversation to even go there, to even have. When I first heard that perhaps, there was something a bit off about the moon, I was like, fuck off. That is like going too far. You need to calm the fuck down and stop being so damn paranoid. And I was just like, nah, and I just big buzzer. And of course I went back to sleep, and that was a wonderful dream of just like still thinking the moon was, beautiful. My thing. Beautiful, yeah. And as I started to come across more and more information, I did the template series, which I don't want to go into detail about what that is, using like geometries and kinesiology. It's like removing the programming circuits in the body. I guess I'm not really sure that that's the right way to explain it, but one of them was around the moon. I'd also come across George Cavasos's work by then, which in the book Our Universal Journey, he shares his take on the moon, and how the old moon, the beautiful moon that I think is the part humanity always wants to connect to, is that, that beautiful spaceship that went around and seeded life in the galaxy, seeded life on Earth. So this is like our mama, in another way. Sorry, like our father to our mama, experience, like the moon to the seed, to the Earth, the planet, the mother. And of course, that easily gets hijacked. Then through a long history of like wars and this and the surface being blasted, and then got put into our orbit, which it was never meant to. And now it's basically a satellite rotating around us, and it's controlling all of our emotions. Perfectly. It controls the water, everything. And I think that's an interesting point you raised about what is it with these competing agendas? That's exactly it. There are so many competing agendas. When I experienced a dark channeling message that came through from the underworld about 4 or 5 months ago, I think now, one of the messages was, you have no idea how much these agendas are all over the place, and you might realize we want the same thing. We can actually work together, the dark, with humanity in so many areas, because a lot of these agendas are competing, and some of them actually work in your favor. So I feel like initially there was a drive to breathe the fuck out of this planet, because we are battery packs energetically, and the more people devote into the God matrix and all the gods under the God matrix, the more love and attention and emotional, whatever it is that they're getting out of it, they wanted a plump, ripe planet ready to harvest. So the depopulation agendas might be actually working in total like force up against that major agenda, and that's more human control. Like, who knows? There's all competing agendas. But certainly with that whole connection with that moon, I feel like I can connect to that old moon, that seeded life. But when it comes to the satellite that's kind of rotating around in the sky, through all this work, I see it differently. And one way that I see it differently is through its light. When I look at the stars, I feel something ancient, like when I look at fire. And when I look at the moon, I'm like, huh? You do look like a satellite. And it wasn't really in my conscious awareness until, I don't know if I've shared this story with you. It was when I was at a property in New South Wales, maybe about 4 months ago, 4 or 5 moon cycles ago. I walked outside in the middle of the night, and I was like, just like, when there's nothing around you, no homes, and you can just be in the night, safe. And I was just like loving it. And I walked out, and then I just felt so imposed on, because I've been in this sacred space with nobody around except for a few helicopters and planes for a few weeks, and I was like, there must be a party. There was this massive spotlights like going across the big cliff faces, and it was just the most disgusting thing just to see this synthetic like light opposed over the night sky. And I was like, where's the nearest house? What are you doing, having a massive party with no music? And I was like, and I looked at the cliff tops and I traced back my eyes, and then I was really surprised when I realized that light was coming from the moon. And I was like, you're the source of that synthetic crap light that I thought was a major spotlight. Interesting. It was the moon coming over the ravine kind of area, and that's when I knew, not a doubt in my mind. I was like, yeah, that was the confirmation I needed when I mistakenly thought the moon was a spotlight. Synthetic light. Sorry.
You know, what came up for me just before when you're talking about all the competing agendas, because then you can get into your head and be like, well, what the fuck? What is the ones that are, you know, maybe they're all against us, maybe they're not. Like, how do we align with them? And this is something that, you know, in the origin story that we kind of share about, and I think is important to touch on here, is the way it's almost forgetting about all of those agendas and going, oh, which one is right and which one is wrong? And it's coming back to like, how does this feel in my body?
Yes.
And how does it feel when I am cycling every month? Because this is what I think we need to bring people back to. It's not like, okay, because for some, the moon being a satellite and the whole like that story is just going to go so far. Like us, it'll be that total resistance of like, oh, that's just too far, like, and they don't want to hear that. So the thing I think is important to come back to is like, okay, so how does it actually feel to you to every single month have to go through that cycle when you're just starting to feel that creative energy and flow, to all of a sudden be going zoom and dropping back into that? Yes, it's a beautiful yin energy and you can feel very connected to it. And this is coming from a place of like, I know you are the same. You're very connected to your cycle in the way of like honoring it and honoring your body in that place. So it's not like, because I think almost the opposing story around the cycle is the women that absolutely hate it. And, you know, like that's how I grew up. Everyone's going, oh my God, I got my period. It's so horrible. And this whole like story of like, yeah, like being completely disconnected from it. So I think it's important to note we're not coming from that place. We're not disconnected from this amazing gift, actually, what it is that we have the ability to do, and it is part of reproducing, but it's just questioning, is it meant to happen this regularly when you're not actually trying to reproduce? Like when you're in a phase of not wanting more children or ever wanting children, you know, like then you do actually, I feel you actually have that conscious choice to go, okay, I'm going to consciously choose to finish having this cycle. And yeah, it's coming from a place of being empowered and sovereign in our body, I think, not from a place of fear. And what I find interesting, so I have been breastfeeding for like almost 21 months now, so nearly 2 years. And it was only just a couple of months ago that I got my cycle back. And it was literally only a week before that happened where I had this thought of like, someone asked me, and it might have even been you, I can't remember, but someone asked something and I said, oh, I haven't even, like, it was in conversation. I said, oh, I haven't actually had my cycle back since having Zion. And that was at like, yeah, he was at least 18 months then. And I had this thought a few days later of going, yeah, like I do like the process of going very internal and like that phase of, you know, it's a very beautiful yin energy. And I just had this thought, oh yeah, I wonder how long it's going to be until it comes back. And I think there was a part of me that was wanting it. I felt that want and that desire, and then literally the next week it happened. And so I was like, wow, that's really that's really amazing, because obviously on some level I had said yes to restarting that cycle. And I am also so grateful for that. 9 or 10 months of pregnancy. He was born at 43 weeks. So I had 43 weeks of no cycle and then another 18 months. Because like there was, obviously during the pregnancy, its reason for happening was already well and truly underway. I was growing a baby. And then there is actually no desire for me, in that time, and there's still not, but, there was no desire to have another baby in that time. So it was just completely like not even on my radar. And it was really only the desire to just want to feel that real, even though I was in a very yin space, I think that is what the gift of our cycle is like that really beautiful place of purging, like you said, like you can purge, and there's some real power in it. The part I do question is like what we're saying is that why is it happening so regularly? Because because it's also it's a very draining experience. Like you don't want to do anything or be out in the world, and it always feels like you're just starting to build that creative energy and then bam.
And that's the part that really resonated with me. I'm so thankful that you shared all that, because it's really bringing it back to that origin story about what feels right and tuning into the subtle energies. It feels really good to release. Like it's not just about, being able to bear children. It's about purging, and that's the part that feels really good. But 3 weeks in 4, every 3 weeks in 4, especially as time is feeling and like we're experiencing time kind of speeding up.
Yeah.
It feels like we're constantly getting knocked down. And that's the part where I'm like, that part doesn't feel right to get knocked down that often. Yes, the release feels good, but you're absolutely spot on. And this is the part that I really appreciate and acknowledge, diving into the world of devotion for the rituals and the moon, because you're so right. As teenage girls, we're like, I got my period, this sucks.
Yeah.
And then we're in total resistance and we're angry and we get cramps and we're upset, and then we do all the things and we try and be active and we basically make the experience worse. Then we polar swing to the opposite of absolutely, devoting to it, loving, honoring, and really having a much better experience of surrendering to the whole thing, which is what we do need to do. And then it's not just kind of stuck in that polar world. We move beyond that and go, but exactly, what's beyond that? Are we really meant to be in total down yin time, going internally for 1 week out of every 4? And is that something that just, embodying on a feminine planet, the power is with that feminine energy. Is that something that's keeping the feminine from really being able to share that creative energy and keep that flow going on that week of high? Imagine if, we had months of that. Fuck the stuff that we would create. I don't even know how many men are aware of what it feels like to be in that week, before our period actually begins, and what it would be like to be able to create from that experience. We could just keep going and going and going. And it's the sexual energy, it's the creative energy you can do so much with. But to have like the experience that I had this month, which was a real life experience of going, finally moving out of this really dark tunnel. Like it was shocking. It was I don't want to be on this planet anymore dark tunnel, and really considering how can I get out of this life experience. Like it was fucked. And it's so interesting. I was watching the show Sense8 again last night, and one of the characters was showing the girl with the short hair, because she tried to commit suicide. You could see like the scars on her wrists, and he pulled his shirt away and said, "Don't worry." And there was like this like tally up of marks, and he's like, "This is every time I've woken up in hospital." And I'm sorry, but if to be who you are and to truly feel in this world right now, you're going to be feeling like this. It's something wrong if you don't. And I was just like, this is what's going on. Like people are really feeling, and there's a lot of people experiencing these dark times. So to go through that as a woman and then release, that month, it was just like such a good thing to purge. But the
Mm.
problem was I was stuck in that tunnel for so long. And then finally the energy started to shift. The creative flow started to come back in. The ideas started coming through. I was nearly bouncing off my chair with excitement a few hours just before it hit. And I was like, I am ready to do something with this energy of months and months of being in darkness. And then it just went boom. And I laid in bed and I could barely keep my eyes open. And I was like, yeah, okay, that's worthy of having a conversation about, and just questioning it and just bringing it into the awareness. And it's not like we've shared in the origin story, we're not saying that this is the truth. It's just feel into that part that may not sit well with you. If that's the case, maybe as a collective, we can pull our energy away from that polar swing of the opposite of totally devoting to and ritualizing these experiences. And what is there a beyond? Is there conscious ovulation cycles that we can go through for the purpose of purging and childbearing that match where we're at in life, rather than every single month just so relentless?
Yeah, exactly. And it is like, I think coming back to always, whether it's this conversation or any of the conversations that we're having, all of it is based around something doesn't feel right here to us. Like, let's chat about that, because there is no like, what is the truth? I'm sure you have asked this to so many things as well. And every time I try and delve into, okay, what is the truth? It's like, it's just this never ending, but it could be this, but then it could be that. And it's like what you're saying, remember the chakra system, it's like when there's synthetic, it just stops. But yeah, there's like all of these layers to this of, what different agendas and different things that it could be. So the only way that we can truly tune into what is right for us is to go into our body. And all of the new age, new cage stuff is all about taking us out of our body. It's about putting us up in our head, like focus on the pineal gland, focus on the third eye, and come into the upper chakras and the light and all of this up here. And it's all around ascension, which this is another subject. I know we're not going to delve into that today, but we need to. It's like, let's go up, let's go up, let's go up. Everything's about going up. But actually, the only way that we can delve into the truth is when we go down and descend into our body. And because everything else, when you're going up, there is so much ability for distortion to happen. There's so much, because the mind in itself is a distortion in so many ways, but then the ability for that to be to happen outside of us is also there. Whereas when we go into our body, it can't. The ability for that to happen isn't there. Interestingly, I'm going to grab this book. I just remember I've started reading this book that I've already listened to on Audible, and I was tossing up, as a whole trilogy, and I was tossing up whether to go on to her next trilogy or read these again. But I really wanted to read them like in a book, and I walked into the op shop the other day to get some jars, and the whole trilogy was just sitting there. 50 cents each, and I'm like, okay, I'll just get them. But I read, and it's really interesting because I was like, I needed to go back through it to see if it was going to come from this real new age kind of way, because they talk about the goddess and everything, but what she said in it, she's like, the goddess is Mother Earth. So this is a Celtic fantasy trilogy, so it's very much, I know, where our roots lie is in that Celtic energy. And yes, so she's talking about, that's the difference. I think there's been a real it's like Chinese whispers in what we perceive now to be the goddess to what they perceived, hundreds of years ago as the goddess. The goddess was Mother Earth. There was no other goddess. But this was what really caught my eye, was that he who would seek the muse, he who would seek to marry himself to any kind of sovereignty, must take the descent down to the earth's center to face his utmost fears and his most secret anxieties. It's like talking about, you've got to go down into the underworld. Like, you have to go, and that's all it's the center of the earth. Like everything is about going up, like go up into like the cosmic realms and all of this, but it's not. It's so not
There's
what we're
more.
meant to be doing.
And I've taken a lot of those journeys like over the years when I was really plugged into the new age and into the whole chakra system. And I did take a lot of journeys, and I learned how to navigate the realms, the astral realm, and see what was synthetic versus not. And I did learn so much, and I'm so thankful.
Yeah.
Then I started journeying through my heart soul essence gateway, where it was like an internal journey, and that felt like a sovereign being journey. It didn't feel like I was going into some other program. I feel like when I was journeying up through in this realm, it was and it was rare because most of the time I would journey within, but when I did that type of journey, especially in a group thing where all the energy's there and I'm like through that pineal gland experience using arching lights and things like that, like to create that, stimulate it, exactly. I would journey into that world. But what started to happen is when I let go of the belief, not really a belief, I stopped giving my energy towards ascension unconsciously. I wasn't consciously giving it away, but because of my community and the practices I was doing, I was unconsciously giving my energy to that ascension process. So when I stopped doing that and began the process of de-new aging, de-spiritualizing me as a person, I started to journey into the underworld. I started to connect with the Middle Earth people and the giants and the trees and the systems under there. And some of my journeys, I'm like, oh, my body is like decomposing as I suffocate and go into the world, and starting to connect with those beautiful dark organic energies that have been suppressed, which are in a lot of ways the feminine suppressed underneath, like that empowered feminine. So I don't know that I ever would have been able to journey that way had I not removed my conscious energy from that. We're going to ascend. You know what that is? It's like that program of we need to be saved. So Jesus Christ, the Savior, is playing out in the new age as, don't worry, we're going to the 5D. We're going to save you and we're going to ascend, and everyone else that isn't on the same path is going to perish or die or stay in their own shit world of where you still have to eat food and kill animals.
Yeah,
and
you'll be breatharian and
vegan
at least.
And it's like all these things that you know that we're meant to be saved and go to, but with such heavy programming for so many years through all the major religions, including the New Age as the one world religion. And this is what George Cavazos talks about, if some entity is projected into the sky or, is into the collective awareness and says, your world is perishing, come with me, I'm going to save you. Come to the 5D, little ones. That's what you should be questioning, because that is what I would call harvest. That's what it's like. That is the whole, we're going to save you and give your power away.
Totally.
And then there's this whole and this is what you started to share about with the goddess stuff, which I think is so important to share, is there is a synthetic version of the whole, the power is within you, you can access it from within. These agendas are so quick, really, really quick. So what happens is it hijacks that experience of realizing that you don't need anything outside of you to devote your energy and love to. You can do it all from within. So then what it does is it latches on, it turns it into an egotistical experience where Mother Earth, as you shared in our fantasy book, is not just the goddess. You're the goddess. You're the god. You're, and it plays on the ego so much. And this is where the whole empowerment, the divine feminine rising gets hijacked, is that it turns into this massive egotistical thing. If you don't believe me, if you look if you're like, no way, I don't believe that thought for a second, look at Instagram, look at Facebook, look at how women are presenting themselves, and you look at me in the eye and you say that is like totally on, you know, the empowerment path, and that is 100% pure and this and that. It's like, it's not. It's so egotistical, and it's like disconnecting people from life. It's getting them into that technological world and getting sucked into a false reality that they're creating. So it's all been hijacked in a way. And this is the point of these conversations, is to go, wow, if you're feeling this like niggling, like, no, that's not okay for me, that doesn't work for me. Well, we want you to know that we feel it too. And the more that we can share about it and spread awareness about it, we can find our own unique path of what empowerment looks like, and what it's like to navigate this world as a beautiful, infinite being, a creator, universal creator being, but actually in the human body, having a human experience, and being able to connect with the earth and not like get caught up in a program of being, you know, hijacked and taken away through the mind.
Yeah, totally. Because that is, and I think it's that we have come from that space. It's not like we're all high and mighty and haven't gone, oh yeah, like those lower beings that are hanging out in the new age. It's not that. It's like, you know, I called it in I think the first video, like my awakening from the awakening. Like, it's like it's a rite of passage, I think, to go through that. It's just whether you want to get stuck there, and it's recognizing that that's just another religion that is actually, I mean, I've never been in a religion, so I don't know, I guess it is maybe the same, but I know for me, like, I had some very strong beliefs, new age beliefs, that should people challenge me on them, I was like, fuck off, I know that's not true. Like, I was very indoctrinated into the new age. And this is one of the things that I think it was in George's book, actually. He said, like, when someone is indoctrinated into that, when they get challenged, the ego comes out, like, and that it does. And I didn't see it at the time. I guess on some level I did, because I was like, wow, I'm really defending these belief systems, because I truly believed in them. But now when I look back, I was like, wow, I can really see how my ego really defended that belief. And I've seen it since. Since I've come out of that world, when I have challenged other, you know, someone's belief systems in that, I've seen the fire that's come out, and I was like, wow, that's really interesting to observe from a different space, because I was totally there myself. And I think that comes to another part of it. It's like, why are we feeling so defensive? If we are feeling that place, so defensive about a belief, I think that is a really good opportunity. And this is what I do now. If I start to feel like a trigger coming up when someone says something, and trigger is not even the right word, but just even an emotion, a reaction of any kind, going, like, feeling like I need to defend it, I just straight away go into, okay, so what? And I feel like I was doing this before, but on a different level. I wasn't doing it in the way of, like, not in the new age questioning, because I just took pretty much all of it anyway, on as truth. And whenever we feel that need to defend it, I think that's a surefire way to know it's a program, because the program actually has us defend it, you know.
Oh, I love that. There's all these little key indicators that we pull out of through the experience of subtle energies.
Yeah,
it's like the program wall. When you hit it and you can't go any further, there's no more knowledge to seek.
Yeah.
When people get really defensive about it, it's like people become their own police of their own belief systems, and they have to police them big time.
Yeah.
To defend them.
Yeah.
That's good.
So there's always a silver lining. And I think that, this is the thing as well. I think that the defensiveness also comes from, as well, a place of like, but this is my whole world. This is my whole life. And that was kind of where I was at with the moon for a period of time, where I got I wasn't really defending it to anyone else, but to my own just cognition of it. When I always question everything, but when I would question it, I would be like, no, but I'd try and reason it out as to why that wouldn't be the truth. And I think that when our whole world is pinned to this is my reality, and when you take on the whole new age reality as your reality, it's really fucking challenging to all of a sudden have it feels like your whole world ripped out from underneath you. I think when I read George's book, I was kind of lucky in that, not lucky, but it was like I'd already spent a couple of years of really feeling that things weren't right, but I didn't have the language to put to it. So I feel like he just really articulated what I was feeling, and that was good. But I know for some people, when they read that book and they haven't already been going through that process, they're still very enmeshed in that world. That is really fucking challenging for them, because it literally is just like having the whole carpet pulled out from underneath you. And it's almost like you can't, I was even a little bit like that. Like, okay, I need to get my bearings. Like, what's true for me now? And it took, a good few weeks to really integrate after reading it. Probably even a couple of months, I would say, just to really start to go, okay, so what is true for me? And I just literally wiped the whole slate clean, and it's like slowly just reintroducing, like, yeah, that feels true for me, at least in this moment. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that when you come into information that is new and different and it challenges a belief system, the most important thing is just staying open to it, just staying open and going, yeah, okay, like there's a part of me that doesn't want to believe this, but what if it's true? Like, let's just play in that field for a moment and just be open to, and true, it's a word that we don't want to use too much, but what if this isn't serving me anymore? What if that isn't serving me? And what if over here I can just be open to something else being more serving, or whatever language you want to use. We try not to use the word true and truth, because what is that? But I think in this instance it can help to just step away from something that ultimately, when I look back into all of the ideology that I bought into, all of it was ultimately keeping us stuck. And it keeps you looping around and around and around, and you don't even realizing it. You don't realize it.
And there's definitely a stage that lifts you out of your current state of being, because
you do.
Because of the way humans are and how disempowered they are from the process. The moment they're brought into this world, anything, including a major religion, or a cult, can look a little better than the current system that they know what to work with. It's something to believe in, it's community, it's empowering. You get new practices that make you feel better. You start to see results in your life, just like a community of like personal development or whatever it may be. Like all of these things really help. And then we get a massive boost out of it, and then it locks you into a trap of cycling and spiraling, and you sometimes get out and feel a little bit better, but you're still inherently stuck in that
program.
And it's just like the perfect example of how many people bang on about paleo and keto diets and juice cleanses and all these different things that we do for the body, or even a vegan lifestyle. But when you actually look at all those people, when they're moving from that American diet, which is just typical shocking. American diet, which is full through Australia as well, but that's just the example of it. It's called SAD, I think. When you move from that and you move into any diet, your whole health is going to spring back to life. Just by maybe even having extra water a day and some more vegetables can make a difference. But then they attribute it all over, and like, I'm a paleo, I'm a vegan, and this is why I'm so much healthier. It's like, well, vegans are a lot more health conscious in general. Like, that is I don't need science to tell me that vegans are more health conscious. They're going to eat way better food than someone who eats meat.
I would say most, because I've seen some really unhealthy vegans where they've just literally taken meat out and just gone and used all these processed, like, whatever the fuck those like fake meats are and all of that stuff. So I would say most
and the same with gluten-free. It's like, oh, we'll just do everything without flour, but it's all like treats and cakes and stuff like that. But generally most people are going to have a better experience. And that's exactly what the same logic I apply to any sort of community or like belief systems that come together, is that it will immediately sort some shit out in your life and make you feel great and improve your health or relationships or your money, whatever. And then it's like, okay, now you're adopted into this system that keeps you cycling, in those exact words. Oh, cycling is the theme today.
Cycles, yes.
Cycles,
and that is exactly what it is. And I had a conversation with someone around Kundalini, and because I was, challenging like the whole system, and that I just don't feel aligned with it. And the response was, yeah, but we're having some really great results. Like it was an abundance career, and, people were having results. And I was like, well, you have to. Like, if people don't get results, they're not going to do it, are they? Like, that's the thing, is that if we don't notice a change, then we check out. We're like, oh, I'm not doing that anymore. Like, what's the point? You don't do it. So there has to be some results happening. And, if we go, not going to delve into the God matrix, but that's a huge part of that. Like the imposition over there is like, if people aren't seeing a result, then they're not going to do it. It's just going to be like, well, that doesn't work, so we'll go over and do something different. So it's the same with all of it. Like you're saying, like if you don't see a result from changing your diet, it's like, well, people either change and do something else, or they just stop and go back to the sad diet. And when you go from that original eating processed foods, and like you said, any change is going to feel amazing.
Yeah.
And I feel like, a whole other conversation is the divide and conquer strategies that are going down at the moment. But, veganism, I feel like, is another one of those agendas, in that it's become so extreme, like so extreme. I actually unfriended a vegan the other day, which I don't really do. But how's this, right? She put in her post, some chef or something who was a proponent for eating meat, and was quite anti-veganism and vegetarian, but, he was typical carnivore chef, died quite young. I think he was like 44, had a heart attack. And she put in her post something along the lines of like hashtag karma or something like that. And I was like, what? Are we actually at the point that a human's life is just karma because he ate meat? Like, it fucking blew my mind. I was like, I can't even deal with that. Like, the post had already done my head in because they were so extreme. Anyway, and I was like, no, that's it. I very rarely unfriend people on Facebook. It was instant. I was like, fuck that. That's a messed up way of thinking, isn't it?
Like, so messed up. Who knows who that man could have been in all the worlds of all the relationships? Who knows all the incredible things that he could have brought into people's lives? You don't measure someone's entire human life
because he ate meat. And he was anti-vegan.
And anti-vegan, yeah.
I'm probably going to it'll be karma if I die now, because I'm not anti-vegans. I'm anti-extremism. I am anything extremist. Like you said, there's the middle ground. It's like you got to swing from one side to the other, I guess, but fucking come back. Like, come back to that middle space where, I think I love animals. I am an animal lover, and according to a vegan, if I'm an animal lover, I shouldn't eat meat. Okay, fine. I do eat meat occasionally. I don't eat it a lot, but I do. It doesn't mean I don't love animals. I can still love animals and still eat some sometimes as well. They're going to it'll be totally like a contradiction for them, and that's fine. But does that mean that someone who eats meat's life is less than an animal's? Like, plants are living.
Exactly.
They're alive. I'm probably even more connected to trees than I am to many humans.
Me too.
I find it much easier to have a conversation with a fucking tree, but and connect with them. Like, they're amazing beings. Like, why is their life any less? Like, I feel like it's all part of that cycle. Maybe we all will end up not eating animals. I don't know, but at this point, like, I think far out, like that is a cycle as well. It's a cycle of life. It's like we need their manure. I don't agree with factory farming and all of that. I think there's some horrendous stuff that happens, but I know my veggie garden that I'm going to start growing will absolutely love having chicken poo and cow poo and horse poo or whatever it is, like, on it. Yeah, I don't know. That's a whole other conversation, I think, but
sure is.
That was a tangent that I just wanted to come out today.
Oh yeah. It's good. It's just good to highlight the like really the, like you said, the extreme beliefs and how limiting they can be. And it's coming back to, does this actually serve you? It's not about the hunt for truth. What's true, what's not. Is this now serving you? So once you've learned all that and your life is improved, are you now limited by what got you there? And do you need to let go of more beliefs? Because when we get, we polar swing in different ways, and then we come back to balance, and then when we have the ability to move on beyond all of that and hold it all as true. And I think that's like maybe that city state that Gene Key's Richard Brother may talk about. I guess like that's the way I feel. It's like you could just immerse yourself in the city state where everything's true. And it's like, well, I don't have a belief about the moon. I can hold it all as true and not true, and figure out what serves me. And then I pull it back down and I bring the energy back down and into me as a human experience. And I'm like, in this moment, what serves me is to not hold this extreme belief. It is actually, this is what's best for me. And in 3 months' time, I might evaluate that. But keep changing. This is what these conversations are about, is it's just test you. Because the best thing for me since I started letting go of all these extreme beliefs and de-spiritualizing myself from the new age is that when someone says something that normally would have like made me want to defend myself, I'm like, oh, tell me what you know about it. Because I just inherently feel that every piece of information is so vital. Yeah, it's a key to lean into what they're going to say and go, tell me about your world. Let me get curious about where that comes from, and it will shape you and help you let go of something that's limiting you and help you move on. So someone with an extreme like redneck belief or extreme lefty belief or whatever can help you if you lean in and help you move beyond, and you can help them move beyond. So that's the thing, is that for me it's a sign that it's like, the extremity in the beliefs, the needing to defend and get stuck in that divide and conquer strategy, are just dissolving. And when the agendas can't divide and conquer humanity, well, we're not distracted. So we have plenty of energy to use for our own personal sovereignty and empowerment and moving beyond. So I feel like that is a really amazing path that right now is serving me. These active conversations are serving me. Yeah.
All of it is. And even like even to a degree, the extremists are serving, because it's like we can look and go, well, that is not the camp that we want to be hanging out in, and that is what drives that desire for that middle ground and going beyond. And so we do need it. All of it, I guess, is playing its part. But the only way to get to the beyond is to let go of the extremism, though. And as more and more people do that, I think, that's where we'll start to see some major shifts happening in the world. Like everything, like you said, if the divide and conquer strategies can't work, which we'll go into that on another day, but if they can't work, then the power is going to be diminished. So
100%.
Awesome.
Yay.